again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Around the Town with Chuck. My name is Chuck Guglielmo. It's a weekly interview show where we talk with interesting people around the community. And today my guest is very interesting and very well known in the Conneaut area. We call him Jimmy Kulco. Jimmy, thanks for joining us.
I'm so thankful that you got a hold of me to come on the show. Glad to be with you, Chuck.
We're glad to have you. Of course, if you don't know, and I can't imagine anybody out there not knowing.
Oh, there's
Jimmy
a few.
Co-hosts Sunrise Live, I think it's called.
Sunrise Live, absolutely.
And that show's had how many names? 3?
Well, let's see. AM Live, Pat Williams started out there. And by the way, April's 9 years the program's been on the air with our company. So,
that's great.
Yeah, we're 8.5 years in. Then it was North Coast Mornings for a couple of months. Mm-hmm. And then December, well, actually starting tomorrow, I've been on the show 2 years, December, and it's Sunrise Live since I've been doing it.
When we had you on the show, probably I think it was about a year ago.
Probably.
You were kind of in your infancy stages of hosting that show, and you were saying you're getting into it. You had a lot more to go. Give us an update on your feeling for the show now.
Oh, I at first, when I was asked to do it for as part of my job every morning, weekday morning, I used to fill in for Pat every once in a while. You've done the same thing, maybe a vacation, maybe a sick day. I knew how to turn on the buttons and everything and keep things going. But when do you want to do this every day in the morning? My first answer was no. I didn't think I'd do it. And then he came back to me about a week later and said, before we give up the morning time slot on the cable channel, I'm going to ask you again. I'd love for you to do the program, but you got to want to do it. And I thought, well, if you can let me be Jim, I can't be Pat. Nobody can be Pat Williams. You can't be him. He's his thing, and I'm going to be me. If I can be me, I'll give it a shot. And here we are 2 years later. I love doing the show. It's like you. I talk to so many interesting people. The actual show flies by for me every day when I have guests on. So for me, I love it. I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
Why would you think, Jimmy, that you didn't know if you could do it when you are full of personality? You could talk your way for 3 hours.
Well, there you go. And every once in a while, as you probably know, sometimes you have to fill in the show. There's days you come in and I get a text in the morning before the show starts, so-and-so can't make it in today. So I kind of keep a big stack of stuff and information and news stories ready at any time so that if I have to fill in a spot, I can do it. And nobody wants to hear me babble for 3 hours, though. So that's why the guests... Well, thanks for that, Chuck.
Matter of fact, the other morning I caught a little bit of your show. Okay. It was the day you had the Snap Fitness people on.
Yeah, that was good.
And I guess they're coming back again later in the month. But before they came on, I have to say, Jimmy, you were driving me crazy about one thing.
What'd I do?
You kept talking about the snow contest coming up. Oh. And I wanted to call so badly with a December 16th date, but I couldn't because I didn't know what the number was. I said, well, he'll give us the number. I couldn't remember the number, and it's not on your computer.
No, you know what's funny about
the number?
593-7180. And you know what's funny? I used to give the email and the number in the first year of doing this, and I was getting emails and calls, Jim, we've got it down, not so much. So I stopped doing it, and you needed it. You want me to put you down for December 16th?
Put me down if that's open. December 16th, we're going to have snow.
And we'll have an inch or more is what we're looking for. I'll put you down.
Yeah, who's going to be the judge?
Well, what happened was how the snow contest came up this year is Jim and Mo Tanner on Main Street. If you know who they live, right next to Ron's Meat Market. Big old house.
I know Jim, but I know
yeah, they called or emailed me and said, why don't we do a snow contest this year? And I go, okay, tell me, that's fine. How do you do it? Well, let's do the first inch of snow that's actually, or more, on the ground at one time in Conneaut. And then they said, we're going to put up a $50 Perkins gift card. And I go, that's fantastic. And then I turned it back. I said, since you guys came up with the contest, you're going to be because I'm thinking who judges where the inches over here by 90, it could be 3 feet. Over here, there's none.
Right.
We got to have some way to, I said, if you guys will pick it out of your yard and let me know when there's an inch, we'll go. And they said, sure. Mm-hmm. We still haven't had that inch of snow on the ground yet. It's been on for a full month.
Hopefully, Jimmy, we don't get that inch.
That's true. In a way that probably a lot of people wouldn't mind. But that's how that all came about. And then Great Wave threw in a $50 gas card on top of it.
Oh, wow.
So there's like a $100 prize just for guessing the snow day.
December 16th, maybe
I'm going to remember that.
Write that date down.
I will put that on for you.
So what have been some of your highlights of the show so far?
Well, in the 2 years or just recently.
Guest-wise.
Yeah.
Who've been you've had a lot of great guests. Any of them stand out that you felt when you left the show, boy, this was a good one?
Well, do you know what's interesting? doing a show like this, and I think you're going to find this too when you do your weekly show. And by the way, I got to give props to Chuck. Great job with the interviews each and every week.
Oh, thanks.
I try to follow and watch as many as I can. I saw, talking about the show, Pat Williams you did a few weeks ago, I think, and I watched that one. And I love doing, and I think you will say there's ones that are a little more special than others, but I bet you get something interesting out of everybody you talk to.
I do.
I think you're that kind of an interviewer. You're going to find something that's special. So I'm going to say, I've had farmers, I've had people that own their own personal business, I've had bigger business owners, I've had county commissioners, as you know, politicians, I've had lawyers, I've had the county prosecutor on, I've had teachers, I've had Lori Riley, I've had whatever. Every gamut of people in Conneaut and around the area have been on the show. And they each bring something interesting to, I think, to me. And here's how I treat the show. I almost pretend the camera isn't there, and I want to learn something from those people. So that's how I try to chat with them. Hopefully the people at home are thinking the same kind of questions I'm thinking, because, you know, I don't usually do a big scripted thing. I kind of free flow with them. I will tell you, to me, now this is to me, everybody's different, but to me, the people that I think in my 2 years so far are the most interesting are people that come on and are passionate themselves about what they're doing. Does that make sense to you? What I mean? Can you tell when somebody talks to you with Path?
Yes.
That makes an interesting interview because they're coming, you know, say, well, what got you started? Like I'll have somebody from the hospital on. What got you started in the medical field? Was it a family thing? Did the parents make you do it? Did you want it? You know, and then they say, Jim, when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a nurse or I wanted to do this. And they tell the story of how they got there. And I can tell their eyes light up because they're telling their story. It's interesting to them because it's their life. But then I'm thinking, if it's interesting to me, hopefully it's interesting to them too. Mm-hmm. So I would say everybody brings something different. But visitors on the show that have a passion and love what they're doing, whether they're rich, poor, middle income, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's if you love what you're doing. They say that you never really have to work a day in your life if you love what you do. Mm-hmm. And I find that true with people I have on there.
Yeah. You talk about passionate.
Yeah.
Of course, you know me. I have a passion for sports.
And I would say the Cleveland Indians.
We'll get into that maybe. Yeah, now what was I going to say about that? Oh, yeah, something you did this year was very exciting for me, is you had all the Conneaut High School sports teams come on your show. How did you get that to happen, and how did it go? And how
I love it. Well, I'll tell you what, right now, as a matter of fact, as we're filming this right now, I'm doing winter sports with the coaches now. I guess, just started with a good relationship. Once a year or so ago, we knew Lori Riley was the superintendent of the schools out here, and all those changes.
She does.
Well, I mean, come into a tough situation and had a tough first year. I mean, let's face it, it's what it was. But I got to know her a little bit, and you know, the funny thing is, she was in Ashtabula, which is where I live anyway, so I knew of her anyway. Mm-hmm. Got to talking with her, some of the principals. She's all for promoting the schools. We're just another outlet to promote things, and I thought. And then I talked with Joel Taylor, the administrative director, or the athletic administrator of the school. Can we get kids and coaches on the program? And I'm thinking, I'm on early in the morning. They might miss a little bit of school, but if they come in the 7 o'clock hour, they won't miss too much. And doggone it, we've had, I think, every sports team at Conneaut so far in the fall, and now we're working on winter. The coaches and as many players, usually seniors, but whoever they can get to come out, have been represented on the show. And I think the kids love it. You know, how kids are about talking about what they love and being on TV and all that.
Right.
And I love it, and we're promoting Conneaut at the same time. It's a win-win for me.
Mm-hmm. That was great that you did that. And now, like you say, you're doing
and it's still going on now,
teams and the wrestling matches.
I got Conneaut's new swim team. We're on today with me. You know, Conneaut's got a swim team.
I did not know that.
They now have a swim team started this year.
Wow, that's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Katie Newcomb is the swim coach.
Oh, okay.
And there's 2 freshmen I had on with me today, and there's another person. Their training with Lakeside is helping them get started in the program this year.
Lakeside had that.
And they do a lot out at the Spire is where they train. Mm-hmm. Conneaut's got a swim team this year going forward.
Very great.
So there's news for you right there. We broke it right on your show.
Breaking news.
But it's fun.
Also, some of your guests, you mentioned a little bit, you get into the political scene a little bit. Now, I know the other day I was watching you had John Patterson on.
Yeah.
How is that for you? Do you express your views with the political people, or do you just let them talk about what they want, or do you add what you think?
Well, here's the thing. This is what makes things difficult in that arena. Well, or I have pastors on, so we get into religion too in the Bible sometimes. those topics you're not supposed to touch, religion, politics, and what's the weather, something like that. Well, I have
I'll
these
take care of the weather.
Yeah, that's true. We have these people on, and it's because they're interesting people in our community. I mean, you can't shun them or we can't have you. The thing I try to do is I just try to make sure, like during the recent election cycle, what I did was I invited everybody that was running for school board. I don't care who they were, but anybody that was running was invited to come on if they wanted. Anybody running for the council at large seats was invited on. And pretty much everybody in the election here locally, except I think one or two, but everybody, I talked to everybody. Most of them agreed to come on, and what I did was I had them present, why do you think people need to check your name off on the box when they're going to the polls? Why would you make a good candidate for this position? Let them talk. I didn't say, I like what you believe, I don't like what you believe. We didn't really get into fighting, arguing. Mm-hmm. See, and I think some of that destructiveness doesn't help anybody anyway. Mm-hmm. I do have views. You have views. They have views. Good grief, this is America. We're allowed to have opinions. The thing is, on the show, I try to just make sure we're open to ideas and express them I think Mr. Patterson said it the best to me one of the first times he was on. He said he believes in the world of politics, we should be more about statesmanship than just being I'm right and you're wrong.
He was a great interview.
Well, he's a good speaker.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's been a teacher for 30 years, too.
Well, there is and I would have loved, now that I know him, to sat in his classes. I'd have loved to have done that. But I mean, I think that's the key, is you're never probably, in the political world, you'll probably never get 100% of what you want. Would you rather take 80% of what you want, or just fight with everybody and get zero for both? Nobody gets anything good for the people because you fight. Learn how to work. Compromise does not have to be a dirty word. It is when you're talking morals or things about the spiritual, but it's to compromise in something that helps people. Sometimes that's how it gets done. Mm-hmm. Again, I have my views and you have yours, but I'll tell you what, Chuck, we need to work together to make Conneaut move forward. That's my goal. Mm-hmm. I kind of look at our show as a community show. I bring on as many Conneaut. Now, we spread out. I'm probably 70-30 Conneaut, outside Conneaut, and content of the show. Because, I mean, there's a lot of things in the county that are interesting to people, too. But I try to stress Conneaut and as much of that as I can get to come on. I love it.
Of course, your show airs right here on Cap TV on
Mm-hmm.
Great Wave Cable Channel 6.
Or 6.
And Spectrum 1024.
It's 1024 now, isn't it? Yep. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And he's seen Monday through Friday here, 7 to 10, still the hours, right?
Yes, it is.
Something else that we used to do on AM Live, and I see you continue it now with Sunrise Live. I got to make sure I get the names of these shows correct.
The morning show and
medical segments.
Yeah.
Those are always interesting. The only thing I used to not like about the medical thing is every time they were done, I said to Pat, I think I have that, what they were talking about. Because I'm a hypochondriac, I think.
Well,
you get that feeling?
Well, it's also one of those things. Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying, because they start talking about symptoms or symptomatic things, or do you feel this way? Is this going on? I'm thinking, yeah, check. Or if they're, let's be honest. And this is a bad timing. I got to put this on me. I had a dietitian on before Thanksgiving. You can't put those two things together. But I mean, the topic
was, when you can get them.
Well, November is talking about Diabetes Month anyway. Right, so Lori Gilhausen from the hospital was on to talk about just nutritious eating for people with that disease and how to control your weight and your eating. And I'm thinking, well, right before it's the only time we could get her. It's one of those funny things that happens in TV. You know how it is. You plan this to happen and that happens, and you just go with the punches. So. But yeah, the medical stuff, I don't think I'm a hypochondriac, but I do sit there and listen sometimes going, maybe I should get that checked. Especially when we have any mental health people on, I'm usually feeling like I should get that checked all the time. So I got something going on up there.
Jimmy, how much in advance will you book a guest?
I keep you're probably familiar, boy, the name is slipping me. One of those green, probably 11 by 14 books with the calendar month by month and squares for every day. Okay. I keep that. I do things on the computer, but I keep that written book. I know there's more modern ways to keep a calendar on your phone. I'm just old school. I keep a calendar book. I try to be at least, like from today, I try to make sure I'm about 2 weeks ahead of where I am right now, so that I don't have blank spots that the day before I'm looking for something to fill. Now, sometimes you call people. I make a lot of phone calls or a lot of texts and emails to reach out to people. then you kind of wait for the answers to start coming in.
Do you use Facebook as well?
I do. Well, you know what's funny? Anybody that's on the show, if they have a Facebook presence, as soon as I know who they are, I make sure we're hooked up and we do things that way. Or Messenger. I mean, I know we communicate that way sometimes. I try to be about 2 weeks ahead. Now, some people, there's probably 4 guests, maybe 5, that would be called monthly regular people. Like there's some library folks I have on every month. I just do. I love our library here. So I make sure they're
girls too.
Twice a month I have medical people on. That's just kind of a given. I think I try to get a county commissioner on once every month. Mr. Patterson comes on once every month. So there's maybe a handful that are regulars. City Manager Jim Hockaday is very gracious. He comes on with me sometimes twice a month. Usually the Wednesday after council meeting, he'll come on the show. So there's some that are regular and they like having a set schedule because they're so busy anyway. The rest are freelance. When can I get you in? What's good for you? And it is funny, the 7 to 10 show, other than the school kids and the coaches, most people come in that 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock hour. I usually cover news, sports, current events, Conneaut things in that first hour myself. If I can get people in, I do. But if they don't come in, that's kind of the hour where we cover all the local and news and stuff like that. So about 2 weeks I try to keep, if I can.
You ever get any no-shows?
Oh yeah, sometimes.
What do you do?
Well, like I said, what happens is sometimes.
Well, wait, let me rephrase that.
Ask
Do you
me
ever
any way
get a
you want.
no-show where they didn't tell you they weren't coming?
Okay, I'll go with that one.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. And that would mean the day of the show. It's in the book 8:15, 8 o'clock, and I'm seeing it's a minute to 8. Usually people that are coming on the show, and you know where the waiting room is, right out the door. You hear somebody rumbling around out there. Okay, I know there's somebody there. Or they peek at me in the window, and I know they're there. It's getting to be a minute till they're supposed to be on. I'm still talking, doing a story, looking at the clock, making sure we're okay, and I'm not hearing a thing. No text, no call on the phone, which I always keep my phone near me just in case. Then I go to break at the hour or at the quarter hour or whatever, and I take a quick peek out there into the parking lot. If they're not there, I'm assuming I'm on my own. So when I come back, we're going to try to reschedule with so-and-so. I mean, unless they show up late because there was traffic or something. But let's say a no-show. Well, that's where I have stories. I have prepared bits with me all the time. I prepare that I could do, and I never want to do this, but I could do the 3-hour show if nobody showed through the door. Because the show is on the air, and we're out there to put something. I mean, they give us that time slot, and I want to make sure we're using it. I can't just say, well, my guest didn't come today, we'll see you tomorrow, folks. You can't do that.
Right.
But I don't want to hear myself for 3 hours either. But I plan a day where I could do a show if I had to do it by myself. So I try to at least have that much ready to go. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of how I do
certainly
it.
Does.
And that does happen once in a while.
Yeah. Telephone calls. Do you get quite a bit of telephone calls, or how does that work? It depends on what the news stories are of the day?
It is. I would love personally to get more of them. Now, I say that some days, I've had days where we've had...
What's your number on the screen?
Well, there's things about that I can't tell you. I would love to have some running, like the running things on the bottom. I would love that. We just can't do it. I can say it more, though. Now I lost myself. Oh, phone calls.
Yeah.
Some days I'll have 70 calls in one show day. 30, 40, 50, 70. Now that's a lot of times when a big contest is coming up. They'll just call.
Like the snow contest.
Or Waldemere tickets or things like that. They're just very popular. Some topics I'll have a medical guest on. I'll get a call or two to talk to them. Hey, I've been to that hospital and been with that doctor or that nurse. I really love them. Or what do you think about this, doc? Should I see you? Then we'll have a doctor on the next week and the phone light doesn't light up at all. It varies so much, Chuck, I can't give you an average because some days we get 2, 3, 4. I've got about 5 regular callers that as soon as they say hello, I already now know who they are, just the voice. But it's funny, you could get from 2 to 20 in any given show. So I never know and I'll give you a little secret. Whenever a guest comes on my show, and I don't usually tell people this, but you're learning a secret here with Chuck. Well, of course, no phone rings in the studio. There's a little light that only we looking at it see. You on TV watching us never see it go off. You can choose to let it light or you can choose to answer it. You would never know that watching the show. I ask every guest that comes on, if we get calls in while you're on, Do you want to take them? And if some don't feel comfortable with that, if it does light up, we just let it go and keep talking. So there's a little secret of the show you may not see.
Yeah.
I tried to call with so-and-so and I couldn't get through. Maybe they were just uncomfortable. I do try to help the guests that way. Not that I'm avoiding issues, just I want to make sure they're comfortable. And see, I like a guest who will come back on the show again.
Sure.
If I get somebody upset, mad, stomping out of there, I'll probably never see them again. So we try to build good relationships.
When the show was called AM Live, of
Yeah.
course, hosted by Pat Williams,
Sure.
you would come on and you would do a couple segments, one on cell phones or technology, and then you
Back
would do a
in the
movie
day.
review. Do you do any of those?
Well, here's what I do now. Jiminy Critic, I had a time when I was doing reviews weekly, monthly, and we even filmed
Nobody
some of
knows
them.
movies like Jimmy.
We even filmed some of them, put them on YouTube. I have dug up some of my old, they're still there floating around. I didn't know they hung on there forever. I looked my name up on there once and I found some. Anyway, I don't do the recorded reviews anymore because we would act out stuff. They'd have backgrounds behind me. We did all sorts of weird things with those reviews. I now talk about movies because I figure with me doing the show all the time, it would be unfair to them if I just did movies every day of the week for an hour out of my day. I would love it. But not
See,
everybody.
that's your passion.
Not
You're
everybody
talking
loves.
about
Well, that's
passion.
one of them. Not everybody loves movies, and I'm thinking I'd bore some people to death talking. So I put it as a part of the show. Like on Fridays, I'll talk about what are the new movies that are just coming out and talk. Like if Martha's on with me or something, Martha Sorahan, I'll talk with her about here's the movies coming out. What do you think about these? On Monday morning, I might say here were the top 10 movies that made money over the weekend and what they were. But I don't do the Jiminy Critic. We just don't have it worked out that I do that anymore. I loved doing it. I just don't do it anymore.
I'm going to have you do a couple reviews for me, but before we do,
Okay.
I want to talk about ratings of movies.
Okay.
You know, we got PG, we got PG-13, we got R. I'm baffled with the rating PG-13. I don't believe in that rating. I think it's either going to be R or it's going to be PG. Now, a PG-13, give me your difference between a PG-13 and an R-rated movie.
Well, you know what's funny when you say that? Every movie you ever see, whether it's at the theaters and you see previews for them, there's the little green band. This has been approved to show in this theater before the movie by the movie, the MPAA. This is the most undecisive group of people I've ever met because the ratings don't always mean the same thing every time you're watching them. By the way, do you know where PG-13 came from?
I have no clue.
Steven Spielberg.
Is that right?
Absolutely. His movie, boy, now I'm trying to think what it was. I don't think it was Jaws. One of his movies, he came up with, we need to have a rating where it's a little more intense than a PG family movie that kids can look at, or a movie that, and 13 means nobody under 13. It's probably not good for somebody under that age for whatever reasons. But Chuck, today, 2017, PG-13s could be filled with all kinds of cursing. If you don't like that kind of thing in your movie and it hurts your spirit, you don't want to hear that. PG-13s, there's even, I will not name any certain word, but we all know the bad words.
Sure.
There is a number list that the censors go through watching the movie that helps rate the movie. If they say an X word so many times, it moves from PG-13 to R.
So that's how they do
There's
that.
one way. And of course, there's physically sexy scenes that have to do with R-rated movies. But even that has jumped bigger in 13 doesn't mean it's good for, in my mind, for every 13-year-old. I don't believe that, like you're saying. I really don't. That's a weird rating. And what they try to do, you know why they want a 13? By law, if the theater is doing what it's supposed to do, nobody under 17 should be getting into an R-rated movie. Now, they probably still sneak in, and I mean, it happens at a theater. The movie rentals, you can go in and rent anything you want, no matter your age. The kids can come out of there with R-rated movies. It's pretty interesting how little lax that is. But at the theaters, there's a reason it's an R, nobody under 17. PG-13, all those tweens and teens can go to that movie without a parent or a guardian with them. But if we load it up with enough sexy stuff, language, fight scenes that are very brutal for a 13 rating, where do you think the money is, Chuck? Geezers like you and me going to see movies, a few of us, or hundreds and thousands and millions of teens going to see a movie together? The money's in the PG-13 movie. So they'll cut it, they call it cutting a movie, to such an extent where it's as far as you can go, but yet the kids can still come in and see it. there's your dollars. Hollywood's not our friend.
Right.
They're there for the bottom line.
So nobody under 17 can get into
They're
an
not
R-rated
supposed
movie?
to, but of course you know they do. I'm just saying if it was really strictly held, because that G, PG, PG-13, R, then there's M, then there's of course NC-17. There,
What's
of course,
M?
mature. That's
Oh.
even past like R. It might even have more intense scenes and things in it. It would now be called an NC-17, and directors don't like to put those movies out because hardly anybody will go see them. They spend all these millions to make a movie, it gets rated NC-17, and hardly anybody will see it, so it loses money. So there's very few of those that get made. There's a few, but very few. That 13 is the big money maker. It really is. So they'll put as much, I'm going to use the word junk, my opinion, into it so it draws as many kids that want to see as much as they can, but they know they can't get into the R without mom or dad. They put it into the 13. So you're right, it's a very weird rating.
Yeah, it is.
It varies. You've seen those movies, and some are as innocent as can be, and some are like, that's a 13. You know, you get surprised by it. So ratings are very arbitrary. I will give you that.
How about a little review for me on the movie It?
Well, I saw this one. It's not my big forte. I'm not a huge gory horror fan, but this one had so much hype and so much. This is, a new Stephen King. Well, they did it in the 90s with Tim Curry playing the clown guy.
Did
There's
it
a
do
clown.
well at the box office?
Oh, yeah. Here's what I was going to say. It cost, I don't know how they made this movie for like $4 or $5 million. The budget for it, that's nothing on a Hollywood movie. It's rated R, so it was gory enough and gooey and icky enough that it got what it wanted in there. It made hundreds of millions of dollars. I think it maybe cost 40, a very low budget. It's 10 times its budget by now. It just did well. So of course there is a sequel already in the works. Whenever Hollywood has money, one that makes money, whether it's going to be good or not, there will be a sequel. That's how they do it anymore. I've got one for you that I don't know if you even know about. And
Probably
it's a
not.
great family feature that I would recommend to anybody out there. I took my 10-year-old son.
So it's PG.
The movie's called Wonder.
Wonder.
Have you heard that title?
No.
All right. It stars Julia Roberts, who I know you know who that is. Owen, oh boy, I lost his last name all of a sudden. Blonde-haired guy with kind of a funny nose, Owen Wilson. He's usually in comedies. You'd know him if you saw him. That's the mom and dad. There's a little boy, and he's 10 years old. My son's age, he's a 5th grader, my son's grade. It's based on a book, on a true story. This boy was born with a disfigured head and face, and he's had all sorts of surgeries. He's been homeschooled up to the point of it's time for him to go to school in 5th grade, but of course the family and the kid's nervous because he looks different than the other kids, and he's going to go to school. What's going to happen to him? How are they going to react? And this is one of the, I teared up at least 4 or 5 times. There was funny parts. You'll laugh, you cry. The story's great. How do the kids treat him? Does he make real friends? Do they make fun of him for his looks? Because kids, Chuck, you've been in school, we've been in school. Kids can be rough. They're brutally honest. They don't have filters like we do. They'll just tell you what they think, good or bad. Wonder. It's a great film. It's a family flick. It's clean. I don't think I heard a word I wouldn't have wanted to hear. My son loved it and wants to see it again. My wife wouldn't go because she thought she'd be crying the whole movie and it was going to be really sad, so she didn't want to try it. We came home and said, one of the best movies we've seen together. And I like a movie I can take my family to.
I remember that.
One word title, and there's a book by the same title about the story. Great flick.
Yeah.
And I
It
won't
sounds
tell
like
you
something
everything
I would
about
like.
it, but it's got a good story. It's clean. It's family oriented, and it's not your typical, they're fighting movies, robot movies, Transformer
You'd give it a
movies.
5-star.
I would say out of 5, I'd probably go at least 4.5, if not more. It was good. And it was a family flick.
What are your favorite kind of movies? Do you like the tearjerkers? Do you like the comedies? Do you like the western? Of course, they don't even make westerns anymore.
I'm pretty
do they?
eclectic in my tastes. I like Western. They do make some, but not as many
Not
as
like
the
they
old
used
days.
to
No,
make,
not
no,
at all.
right.
I like them when they're well done. I guess I would be a thriller. I like cop movies, sometimes good guy, bad guy movies, drama. I love comedies if they're funny. To me, funny is funny. It doesn't have to be raunchy, dirty to be funny.
Right.
But humor is humor. I mean, a guy doing a pratfall the right way is still funny to me 50 years later. My wife loves rom-coms. So, of course, Chuck, I love rom-coms. You know how that goes. That's why.
If she likes it, you have to like it.
Happy wife, happy life. No, but I mean, I would say mine would be a thriller or a drama would be my favorite pick of all. If I'm watching one alone and I wanted to just watch a movie I like, that would be my pick of a
Now,
movie.
when you said thriller,
Yeah.
you talking about a mystery thriller, a scary thriller? What
Well,
kind
I
of
just
thriller?
watched a movie from the 70s again, starring Robert Redford, 3 Days of the Condor. You ever heard of that movie? It's a government conspiracy kind of a movie. I liked that kind of movie. It set up the story real well. A guy goes away. He works at a certain part of the CIA, is all I'm going to tell you. And he goes to pick up lunch for everybody, and while he's gone, a mailman comes in, and everybody's dead when he comes back. He was supposed to be there too, but he went to pick up lunch. Why did they kill everybody? Why are they taking all these people down that work in that office? Now he's on his own on the run, and they realize at the government side they didn't get everybody. They got a loose guy out there, and the chase is on. That kind of thing, I can enjoy that kind of a flick. So I mean, that kind of a movie, a thriller, a drama.
Would you watch, Jimmy, would you watch a movie more than once?
I've done that. I've watched Shawshank Redemption
If
many
you watched
times.
it a second time, is it because you just loved it that much, or there's something you didn't understand in it?
I mostly that I loved it, and there's usually all of us that love a movie or a book have quotable lines. You remember certain lines you just say over and over, and there's certain movies that you get a feeling from. I think a good movie evokes a feeling out of you of some type that you enjoy. If you say, I love the movie, my favorite of all time ever, any movie genre is Wonderful Life. That's my favorite movie ever.
Somebody else's favorite movie.
I've seen it I don't know how many times, and I can still watch it. I'm not bored.
Really?
I'm not, I know what he's going to do. I know I kind of love the story. You know what I mean? I can watch that again, and it makes me feel a certain way, like music does. Or a movie that you love makes you feel a certain way. That's my favorite movie ever of all time. I would watch it anytime. Yeah.
What
Now,
about
my
White
wife
Christmas?
thinks that's a good one, but it's not my favorite, but I enjoy it. Bing Crosby, I believe. Yeah, I watch that just about every year.
Christmas in Connecticut?
I don't remember that one as well. Holiday Inn, I remember, but Christmas, who's in that one?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure.
I mean, I know the title, but I couldn't tell you right now who's in that. But I'll watch those classics. I think they're good. And I think if a movie's well made, tells its story well, and grabs you in the first few minutes. Some movies leave you hanging and you don't see anything and you kind of give it up if it doesn't happen for you. But that first set of scenes is what sets you up for the movie, and I think that's what hooks you.
Well, Jimmy, you do a great job hosting Sunrise Live. I got that
There you
right
go.
now.
You got it right.
Sunrise Live,
Yep.
and it was great having you on today.
It was great to be here. Thank
You
you.
had your morning voice, your afternoon voice is the same as it is in the morning,
Okay.
and you did great, and we appreciate you taking the time to come on.
Thank you. I loved it. I'd come talk with you anytime, and maybe when you can, I'd love to have you back on the show. So give me a visit someday.
Jimmy Kulco, host of Sunrise Live. You can catch his show Monday through Friday from 7 to 10 on Great Wave Channel 6 and Spectrum Channel 1024. My guest today on Around the Town with Chuck.